Hey everyone, my name is Sylvia Ramos and welcome to Project Management Guerrilla Tactics 101. How to act like a PM when you're not really one. Let me first start by moving my little face up to the top. I want to make sure you all can see the closed caption. I'm trying to make this as accessible as possible. Please note sometimes the closed caption is not as accurate as I would like it to be, but I'm going to try and speak slower so we can capture the words correctly, period. I can't change this once I record it, so unfortunately I cannot go back and edit it to closed caption. Hopefully I'll be able to do that in the future. Let's jump right in about why you're in this class. You're taking this because someone just gave you something to do and you went, oh my God, I don't even know where to start. Or the other side is, holy shit, I am not a project manager. So let's start with what this webinar is and isn't. So first I'd like to start with what it isn't so we can end on a positive note. This class will not teach you everything you need to know to be a project manager, period. This class will also not make you a certified project manager. As the title said, this is Guerrilla Tactics 101. It is quick and dirty. Therefore, we're not going to cover every aspect of what you need to manage projects. I'm going to stress that over and over a couple of times because I want to make sure you don't think this will make you ready for a project management certification test that PMI gives. Now, to let you know, I am a certified project manager and I have been a project manager for a really long time. But I think when you run projects initially, you don't need to be certified. You just need to know some basic ideas. And that is what I want to give you is some basic ideas and help you run with it. If this was to go into the full-fledged project management, it would take more than an hour or two. It would take probably a week's worth of talking about project management, 6 hours a day, as well as introducing topics that you would need for the test. So this isn't that. Let's just talk about what this is. You've been given something, as I said, and you're going to run with it like a project. There are a few reasons why you're running with it like a project. One is it's going to help increase your odds of being successful. Running things like a project gives you the structure that you need to run projects, and it gives you the ability to communicate, track, and also gives the team an understanding of what your end goals is. And as I said, I'm going to repeat again, this class isn't for project managers. This is the basic. What I want to start is with a scenario. The scenario we're going to talk about is you've been given a task to implement a new expense approval system. That is pretty familiar to most of us. We know what approval systems are. This time you've been put in a new one. Probably electronic because most companies are moving away from paper systems. The thing is, this isn't really a task. This isn't like something you can go off and do by yourself, unless you're a one-person company. This involves potentially IT or your technical people. This also could involve your finance people, unless you're the finance person, which you could wear multiple hats. You could be the PM and the finance person. This also could involve anyone else who is the person who puts in expense reports and gets it cashed out. What about payroll? They're the ones who sometimes pay out the expenses when you get it in your check. So depending on your company or your organization, this may involve 2 people or 20 people, but it's not a one and done. So we want to plan it so we can be successful. So let's talk about how we're going to what we're going to cover in this class to walk you through how you're going to tackle that scenario. First thing is I'm going to teach you what it means to be a project, what project management means, sorry, and why it's going to be helpful. Because I think it's important when you go off in the future and you talk about this that you've done to someone else, because maybe you want a new job or you want a new promotion, you want to use terms that are kind of these terms that get people ears perked up and say, wow, you're kind of like a project manager. And you can say, well, I've run projects in the past. I'm going to also talk about some basic tools. We're going to review 3 basic tools that you need at a very minimum to run any project. Also, I'm going to talk through how these tools work together to help you manage all the moving parts, because there are a few moving parts to this project. The most important, though, that project managers deal with, besides planning and tracking, it is dealing with the unexpected. That is really tough. How do you deal with what the future looks like when you don't know what that might look like? It takes some planning and some work. So we're going to talk through how you develop those instincts as well. All right, let's jump right in. What is project management? We're going to start with what a project is. As you can see from the definition, it has a start and end date, and it has a goal. To me, you're not working on a project unless you have a start and end date and a goal. And you may say, well, I saw the scenario, it didn't have a start or end date. But I bet you if you talk to your leadership, they probably would say, oh, we have a start and end date for that. We want you to start by this date, and we want it done by the holidays or by the new year or by the new fiscal year. They may have something already in their minds, and it is up to you to determine what that is. And we're going to talk about why that's important later. Second thing is what a project manager is. In a sense, you're by default going to be acting like a project manager because you are the person who's going to make sure this is successful, right? You are it. You're going to be planning and tracking everything and driving it to success. When you put those things together, that is project management. It is the process of driving a project to completion. Let's jump right in to the basic tools, what I like to call the big 3. The first one, I think, is the one that's most familiar to people who have heard of project management. It is a schedule tracker, sometimes called a project plan. That's the official name. It tracks how long you're going to be doing this for. It also tracks who's going to be doing this. I like to add one more component, whether written or unwritten. Know what we're going to get out of it when you do that specific task. If it doesn't add to the end, if it doesn't move you forward in your project, you may not want to do it. And that's why I love to confirm it in my schedule tracker, my project plan. Why are we doing this? Why do we need to do this? Also, the last thing I want you to put in the schedule tracker, at least at a summary level, is what success looks like. That's going to be important because you could, in this scenario, you could put in place an expense tracking system. But if you missed the start of the fiscal year, your management might say you weren't successful. Man, that stunk. So you want to make sure what they want success to look like, because you may need to adjust their criteria of success, because you may not make it by Christmas, and you want to let them know if that's really a must. Then you adjust your plan. Maybe you get more resources initially, whatever it is. But you want to know what success looks like. Second thing I want to talk about is what I call the RAID tracker. I love that word RAID, and I'm going to do this in order. A RAID tracker is a list of risks, action items, issues, and decisions that happen during the life of the project. This is a living list. The other name for this that I like to use is it's a CYA list. It's more of a idiom in American English. Look it up, Google it. But this is why it's important to keep track of these items because they'll change during the life of the project. But also, if a project is longer than a month, we have the attention span of a gnat and we forget who made decisions, why did they make it, or we may not remember issues that are going to hit us or risks that might hit us. And I'll talk about each of those items in a future slide, in a future show. So that's the RAID tracker, my favorite, probably behind schedule tracker, which is why I put it as number 2, right? Last thing I call is the communication tracker. This is tells you what you're going to report out in terms of the status of the project to the people who are interested. Some people interested also are called stakeholders. It's leadership, it's people within the project, outside the project, end users. You want to tell them what you're doing. Part of that reason is as a project manager, you are a cheerleader to your team. You want to make sure that they're getting the recognition, and in some cases, you're getting the recognition for the work you guys are accomplishing, but also sets them up for what you need from them. So let's say you're going to implement it in a month. You may need some volunteers to test the application. This is a great way to say, hey, in 2 weeks, I'm going to need a list of volunteers. It's a great way to report it out to people. So this is the big 3. Now, what I'd like to do, though, is stop this recording right here. In my future recordings, we're going to talk about each of these tools. We're also going to do a sample of how to track it in an Excel spreadsheet. Quick and dirty. Think about guerrilla tactics. I also want to mention the importance of communicating up and out, but also receiving communication in from your team, and talk about the moving parts that need to go together. Last but not least, one of the last things I want to talk about in the future is dealing with the unexpected. Initially, that's going to be probably your scariest part. Unknowns are always scary. As you work with projects, it becomes something you do automatically by default in the back of your mind. And many of you, even if you haven't run projects, you guys plan for the unexpected, right? Some of us are preppers. We plan for electricity to go out, right? Or you plan for flooding in your area, or you plan for ice storms or snowstorms. There's a reason why certain people carry shovels in the trunk of their car, or other things that are about you preparing for the unexpected. And I know you may say, oh, but that's expected. Well, some of it is and some of it isn't. So it's about planning. Project planning is about planning and management. All right, stop it here and let's go to the next slide, next presentation.